we thank you for staying with us. Now, for the different reasons of getting better representations in gender equality, lifting the women folk through empowerment, priorities continue to be a concern for this gender. And of course, like partners, our first conversation borders on this and allied issues. So let's welcome our guests. All right, first guest this morning on this segment is Laraba Shoda. Laraba Shoda is the National President of National Council of Women's Societies. Welcome to the program, madam.
Thank you.
We also have Amina Ado, Chief Executive Officer, Sanada Limi Foundation. I hope I got that correctly.
Yes.
All right, so you're also welcome to the program.
Thank you.
All right, it's a pleasure to have you with us, and congratulations on this year's International Women's Day. Well, the question of gender equality and increased women empowerment, those questions, of course, are still very relevant. But on the occasion of this year's International Women's Day, what, in your opinion, are the pertinent issues that we should focus on?
Thank you very much. I want to congratulate all women on the International Women's Day today. The COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic has really opened up a lot of inequality for women. Women are the ones that are most hit in this coronavirus thing. Inequality in Nigeria for women is something that we all know that is very, very serious, because a lot of women, especially in governance, are not given their place of pride. And when the coronavirus came, of course, it hit a lot of women, even the women in the market, as the market women like that sell day-to-day things, the ones that control the microeconomy, were hit, and it showed a lot of problem. That was why we started having a lot of sexually based violence. Women were being abused at home because, of course, a lot of women go out to go and look for daily bread. Most women are the breadwinners in Nigeria. But during the pandemic, you know what happened? Everybody was locked down, and women were not able to go to their businesses, which they go every day. And problems started. We started seeing a lot of sexual and gender-based violence, abuses, and all sorts of things, especially rape, was very rampant. That showed that the inequality between the female and male gender, the gap is so wide. During the pandemic, we saw the gap. We saw the gap opened. So during this International Women's Day, we want to discuss and know, what do we do? What is the way forward? How will government, bridge this gap between the male gender and the female gender? That is our main issue this time around. In empowerment, for instance, we have a lot of interventions by government. But when you look at these interventions, you discover that women are few. Let's take the anchor borrower scheme. You will discover that it's men, mostly men, that have this anchor borrower scheme. Even the intervention where you get maybe 10,000, 50,000, and so on for this pandemic. When you look at the list, the data, even in National Council of Women's Societies, we've been going through hell just to access these funds because of the normal problems that women have. Of course, women will be asked to bring this, bring that. We don't have collaterals. We don't have, our husbands maybe have to sign for us to collect loans that are up to like 10 million. So women have a lot of challenges in this country. So the inequality gap is so wide.
All right, thank you. Now let's turn to Amina Ado. Let's get your own view concerning gender inequality in Nigeria, and how best you think this inequality gap, can be closed.
Yes, there is a lot of inequality, in Nigeria, both in education, in economic empowerment, and that's why our Partnership for Women in Economic Development is trying to address this gap. Now, it may surprise you to know that based on the Demographic and Health Survey of 2018, only 55% of women between the ages of 15 and 49 have a mobile phone, while 81% of men do. That's something as inconsequential as a mobile phone, but you have this large gap. Now, when it comes to land, only 12% of women have land in their name, while 38% of men within that age group said they do. And when it comes to education, 35% of women are illiterate, while it's 22% for men. So you can see both in terms of the economy and in terms of education, which gives you access to actually higher earning capacity, women are behind. Now, what can we do to address this problem? The most fundamental thing is quality education, quality public education in particular. Because if you look at the northern part of the country where we have the lowest literacy level, the problem is most parents send their kids to public schools, and these schools are very poor in quality. So at the end of the day, these parents decide, look, this thing is not even worth it, because they cannot see the benefit. So we need to fix public basic education. After doing that, women who maybe finish school just by going to primary and secondary school, we need to give them better skills, better financial literacy. And then fundamentally, when you look at the federal government budget, there are just too many ministries involved in women economic empowerment. Over 10 in the 2021 budget. Now, can you reduce this to say 3 or 4 and reduce the cost of admin, so that at the end of the day you have more women actually then benefiting from these programs rather than spending it on the civil servants? So I think if we do this, we would be able to see an improvement. And then, of course, you can use quota system. If you look at the political space, only 4.5% of women make up the National Assembly. 4.5% is unacceptable. But without economic empowerment, it is very difficult for women to be politically empowered. So you need to fix education, you need to give women better access to skills and financial literacy, and then they can hopefully exact their influence in the political space.
Are you saying that 10 ministries championing the cause of women should not be the focal point now? Because I would have thought that doing that is ensure that more women will benefit from whatever program or policies of government with respect to bridging the gap.
No. You see, if you have too many, they spend the money on civil servants, on admin, on running up and down. Check the 2021 budget. Unbelievable 19.5 billion or thereabout is going to be spent by the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs on traveling. 19.5 billion. That's about the budget of half the budget of Ministry of Justice. And that's because everybody is in this business of empowerment. Give it to Ministry of Women Affairs. Empower the Ministry of Women Affairs. That's their job. And then Ministry of Agric, because there's a lot of intervention in the agric space, and probably the humanitarian people. That's it. And then, please, unbundle youths from women. When you look at the budget, everything is youths and women, youths and women. Women are a separate, distinct, important entity. We make up 51% of the population of Nigeria, roughly. So we don't need to be merged with youths. When you do that, there is better transparency. When you report, we will know actually what women got. But today you report, you say with youth and women. What does that mean? We don't know how many actually women, what women are getting. So for better targeting, for better transparency, for reduction in waste in admin and public servants, you need to reduce the number of ministries that are involved in women economic empowerment.
So could you cite other examples of ministries, departments and agencies that are identified in the 2021 budget as targeting matters relating to women
Yes,
empowerment?
there's Ministry of Trade, Ministry of Labor, Ministry of Youths, everybody, SDF's office, Boundary Commission, everybody is involved.
So what do you want? You want a super ministry for women
yes,
that will take care of these issues?
There is already a Ministry of Women Affairs.
Yes.
Let them be the focal point. Let them have more power. Right now, they have 8 billion in their budget, Ministry of Women Affairs. That's less than half of what humanitarian is spending on traveling all over the place.
Okay, let's break this down further so that we get it right, because you're making an important policy proposition. Everybody knows that year in, year out, we have to deal with disasters. And therefore also confront humanitarian issues. Last year, flooding, for instance.
Yes.
And one of the arguments that often comes up is that women are often most impacted by these humanitarian challenges. And the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, which is now a special purpose ministry created only a couple of years ago, is meant to address that. And of course, the kind of skills that you need and the kind of interaction that you need with other agencies couldn't possibly reside only in the Ministry of Women's Affairs. If the Ministry of Women's Affairs had to coordinate matters relating to flood disaster, relating to IDPs and so on and so forth, in addition to its regular matters, bringing on trade, bringing on all kinds of the ministries that you have talked about, when would the ministry have time, therefore, to clear the ticket and then be sure of what it's doing?
I said 3. Agri, humanitarian affairs, women affairs. Let them handle issues of women. Now, if when we say handle, you yourself now, it's difficult for you to say how much government is spending on women, because everything is all over the place. But when you make Ministry of Women Affairs in terms of consolidating and telling Nigerians what the government is spending on women, even the government will benefit from it. But importantly, you will reduce the cost of admin, the cost of logistics, and you will have better targeting, because you have a ministry that actually understands the problems of women. It is the Ministry of Women Affairs, but it is marginalized, actually. And that's at the federal level. In fact, at the state level, it's as if the Ministry of Women Affairs is just like a token to keep women quiet. Look at their budget. It's totally irrelevant. Ministry of Women Affairs, check their budget in the last 5 years. They hardly get up to 10 billion.
Couldn't the advocacy, therefore, be increase budgetary allocation to Ministry of Women Affairs, and then let the NGOs and other interested groups begin to interrogate not just budgetary allocation to these 10 or so ministries, but the spending of the allocations, assuming they get the full receipts for what has been allocated?
Yes, you need more for women affairs, but I am of the view that having 10 ministries, and almost, by the time you add National Assembly zonal projects, you will have more than 10 ministries. Everybody is involved in women economic empowerment, because it looks like, or youth economic empowerment, because it looks like there is money there that is very difficult to account for. It's very, you can say I gave 10 people money, maybe 2 people got it. That's it. So you need, if you reduce the number, you will reduce admin. You will make it more transparent and unbundle youths and women. There's nothing like youths and women, for God's sake. So unbundle them. When you do that, because everybody is complaining about waste in public space. When you, even information and culture, they have women empowerment. Everybody is involved. Yeah? But if you reduce the number, and when we need to do something that is specifically a skill set of the Ministry of Information, the Women Affairs or the Humanitarian or the Agri, they'll bring them together. And then the government can say, yes, I'm spending 100 billion, 150 billion on women. If you ask government now, they can't tell you how much they're spending on women economic empowerment, because it's all over the place.
Well, isn't that the way, Kira? Isn't that the way an economy runs? Because if you're talking about a streamlined approach to public expenditure on a particular cause, it just might be challenging. I mean, if you mentioned education earlier, for instance, when you say education, we know that we have challenges with our public education system, but you can see the various sources of contribution to our education, various sources, and those agencies that also handle them, not just at the state level, but also at the federal level. So why your advocacy? It's interesting from the point of view of say cutting the cost of governance, but administratively, and therefore it might just be a big challenge.
I think I think she has a point in what she's saying, you know, because ultimately what is needed is to target the women and get more number of women involved in this empowerment. Not few women, more ministries involved with women affairs, but few women get this, because now the complaint has always been there with all these number of establishments, you know, catering for women. Yet we are still seeing that the women are not getting their rightful share or what they should get in terms of empowerment. So what now has been achieved, if we have all those ministries or parastatals who are involved in championing the cause of women affairs, in empowering women, and yet there's this complaint that women are not getting that empowerment, then the whole effort would have been in vain.
No doubt about that. Kyria,
let's bring in.
You are going over to Laraba. Let's practicality.
I want her to come in here.
No, that's the point, the practicality of it. See, Minister of Information and Culture, say the cultural aspect, you're dealing with, say, boosting Nollywood, or boosting, cultural traits and so on and so forth, cultural activities, and you would now have to segregate the women who are involved in that and say, okay, women, this one is for you, go to Ministry of Women Affairs. Arts and culture, you will say, I'm not saying, I'm talking about the issue of empowerment. You lift it from there, you say, when it comes to sports, when female athletes, you say, oh, issues related to female athletes, their campaign, their kitting and so on and so forth, their training, okay, they take it to Ministry of Women Affairs. I don't know.
No, that's not what I mean.
Oh, what do you mean?
No. Look, if you look at the budget, again, because the budget is the instrument of implementation of government policies, you will see even on that, I'm not sure your ministry, but you see on that many ministries, they are buying KK, whatever. They are buying grinding machine. They are all boundaries commission. Go and check what they are doing. Yeah? Why is that specialist? I'm not saying we should have gender policies in all what we do. So if you are a Ministry of Culture and you want to do something that, and there is a female component to it, nobody's saying you should go to Women Affairs. But when you say, I am doing economic empowerment, yeah? And it is not something that is specific to your skill set, please empower the Ministry of Women Affairs, the Ministry of Agri, and the Ministry of Humanitarian to actually do these things as much as you can. There will be exceptions, but the Ministry of Women Affairs should not be the one that has the least amount of money to spend on women economic empowerment or thereabouts. That's the point.
The point is clear. We appreciate that. Let's bring in Laraba Shoda here. You listen to what she said, her side of the argument. So what's your take?
Well, I differ a little bit. I believe that the Ministry of Women Affairs should be more empowered. Their budget should be bigger, but I believe that in every sector they must take care of women. For instance, Ministry of Trade and Industry, we have women, a lot of women local women who produce things, and the Ministry of Trade and Industry take care of those women. They are the ones that take them out, they are the ones that look for funds for them. I believe that they can involve the Ministry of Women Affairs in whatever they do. But they should have the gender desk for women, because they are Ministry of Trade and Industry. They know what they want. So in each ministry, maybe when you get to police, for instance, they have their own gender section that takes care of women. And I know now that they even have a DIG in charge of women in the police, including the army. They have their own women's sector. So they must be able to take care of women. But I agree with her that women and youth should not be lumped together. The youth should be able to be on another maybe ministry, while the women will be taken care of by other ministry. But saying that the ministries that are taking care of women are too many. Women are many in the country. The National Assembly, they have their women's sector. They take care of women and do things for women. Even the central bank, we have the central bank money allocated to women, though it doesn't really get to women. So maybe if they involve the Ministry of Women Affairs and say, well, this money is for women, and this is, let us sit down and talk and arrange how the women will get it. Maybe it will be better. But the money is there in the Ministry of, they have to take care of it. They own the money. They take care of that part of what they put together for women. Maybe for empowerment, which really doesn't get to women, because I've been to the CBN many times. We have hurdles to overcome before you get such money. You have to do this, to do that, and the money is sitting down there. Women are not able to access it. Maybe with advocacy, sensitization, and if the ministry, if our ministry, that is the Ministry of Women Affairs, is involved, more women will know what to do. There will be ease of, receiving those funds. So the same thing, Bank of Industry, they also have the same, Agric, they have. And it goes to women, but not easily. It's not easy. So maybe we need the Ministry of Women Affairs to train women, teach them how to access this money, teach them what to do, because a lot of women, they are in the informal sector. A lot of them, like she said, they don't even have the proper phones to use, and all they know is to buy and sell, daily income and that kind of thing. But the money for them to do this buying and selling is there, lying down somewhere where other people, men especially, access this money and use. So I think the Ministry of Women Affairs should be more involved in, working with, interfacing with these different ministries that have things for women.
Now, let's say we're the 2021 International Women's Day. Now, going forward, what would you like to see that will change the course of history of women in Nigeria, very briefly?
Well, I'm particular about governance, for instance. I'd like to see in Nigeria having a quota system, having allocation for women. We've been talking about 35% affirmative action. People, some women, some feminists believe that, we don't need a 35% affirmative action because we can get 50% or no. Even other countries, have, like Rwanda, they have a quota system. And many other countries, they have an allocation for women, maybe 40%, 30%. Beijing said 30%, but we have gone past that now. Maybe 35%, maybe 40% allocated to women. And we are not saying that this thing we should be handed over to women on a platter of gold. We are saying that the 35% must be put aside. Women must occupy 35% seats everywhere, especially in elective posts. And the women that are qualified, we fight for those positions, not just godfatherism or godmotherism, no. Women that are qualified, women that come out. Because last dispensation, we had hundreds and hundreds of aspirants. But at the end of the day, they didn't get anywhere. Because one, they didn't have the money. Two, they didn't have the lever for violence.
And sometimes women don't vote for women, fellow women.
No, I don't agree. I don't agree because we have not had candidates for you to know whether we
somebody aspired for the presidency of this country, a lady, and she was the only person that voted for herself.
Is it Sarah Jubrin?
Yes, no other women voted. No women voted.
No, she didn't get to the candidacy position. She was an aspirant. You know why? Women do not occupy the grassroots government. We don't occupy grassroots government. We have something they call primary elections. During these primary elections, there are automatic delegates, people like councillors, people like chairman of local government, people like House of Assembly. They are automatic. That is before they now pick some politicians to join them. If there are no women occupying those spaces, there are no women as a ward chairman, there are no women as local government chairman or vice chairman or SLG, everybody is a man. Most of them are men.
Dr. Laraba, we are pressed for time for this segment. A number of issues that you have raised along with Ms. Amina Ado, these are issues related to party political management, but she's also raised a pertinent issue on bundling women and youth. as ministries. I think that we have that in part now. There is a Ministry of Youth and Sports, not Ministry of Women Affairs and Youth, although at the state level probably still have that bunched up together. We'd like to thank you for being with us, but just a reminder, Laraba Shoda, that's the chair, national president of NCWS, when you were talking about the implication of COVID-19 on women, perhaps you should also have added, and maybe that's so that women would know, scientists indicated that women were less likely to contract COVID-19, and even if they contracted it, the fatalities among women would definitely be lower than men. So men were the ones who have been dying mostly from coronavirus. So, on that note, we'd like to thank you for being with us, and thank you for being with us on Good Morning Nigeria. All right, it's Good Morning Nigeria live on the Network 7.